After the morgue boys left, Steve let Claiborne sleep so he could focus on making room for the O2 cart. He tried to roll the bedside table out of the way, but it was stuck on something. Steve knelt down and saw that a fallen magazine was blocking the wheel. Of course, it can't just roll away like it's supposed to. I have to get down on the friggin' floor. The magazine put up a fight, pinched as it was by the wheel. Steve nudged the table with his shoulder and ripped the obstruction free. He heard a noise, turned around to look. The door was just closing. He glanced at the chair. Claiborne was gone. But his suit coat and tie remained draped against the back of the chair. It looked as if the man had bodily disappeared, leaving only his clothes behind. Steve started after him. As he came around the bed, he froze. Claiborne's shoes and socks were on the floor. And then he remembered. Campus pool shark Charlie Claiborne was found wandering barefoot around downtown Palo Alto in a daze. Patient Alpha also insisted on removing his socks and shoes as soon as he entered the somnambulant state. That's from his research. Steve opened the door and looked down the corridor. The ward, usually busy, was empty and quiet. There was no sign of Simon or Mrs. Walker. He walked past the vacated nurse's station and into the main hall, also deserted. As Steve came around to the elevators, Claiborne jumped out in front of him. Boo! Steve jumped. At first, he thought it was someone else. This couldn't be the same man he had met only a few minutes earlier. Gone were the twitching movements and the dark circles under the eyes. Gone were the sour patrician attitude and impatience. This man looked much younger and healthier, his skin bright, almost glowing. But it was Claiborne, barefoot, the untucked tails of a blue dress shirt flowing over his suit pants. Steve glanced down the corridor. No sign of anyone. You're Charles Claiborne, right? The man just kept smiling. And you were patient Alpha too, weren't you? Steve tried to read his reaction. Dr. Ludovich? While you were at Stanford? Ring any bells? Claiborne winked at him. Somebody's been doing their homework. Steve leaned in and whispered, and you're him right now, aren't you? Patient Alpha? Busted. You got me, copper. I am he. I am patient Alpha. In fact, I am patient Alpha and patient Omega. Claiborne leaned back and laughed. Steve didn't get it. There'd been no mention of patient Omega. Claiborne looked squarely at him. But you knew that already, didn't you? You didn't have to ask me that. You want to ask me something else. That's why you came after me. No, I, Claiborne mimicked. You don't know what I'm talking about. He put one hand on Steve's shoulder. You're so exquisite, you know that, Steve? You're so intricate. You long for connection, to make contact, and yet you're so afraid, you're so petrified of what might happen. Like those women at the cafe the other day. Huh? Claiborne couldn't possibly know about that. Sure, the two young mothers with the Paris-Dakar strollers. Isn't that the little joke you shared with yourself? The strollers were tricked out with cables and brakes and knobby tires. You joked that they looked better for a road rally, remember? Nausea and lightheadedness passed over Steve. The hallway contracted around him. He felt like he might float into the air at any moment. Where was everybody? Everything was growing cloudy like a dream. You remember, Steve. Those young mothers in their lycra outfits struck a deep note in you. They ignited your longing. No, you're ashamed because you think it's sexual, that you wanted them in some sick animal way. But that's not it at all. No, it's because you want that life. Wife, children, coffee with a friend in the afternoon. But you feared them. Why? Have you wondered? Steve jerked himself backwards, free of Claiborne's grasp. He shook his head, trying to dissipate the clouds. What are you doing to me? What the hell's going on? Where is everybody? Claiborne looked down the hallway. Looks like it's just you and me, Steve. Nobody here but us chickens. I don't feel well. How do you know so much about me? It's impossible. You know, aesthetically speaking, it's amazingly beautiful the way you've lived the life of Steve Magera. You've really done wonderful things with it. The intricacies of the narrative, the tension between longing and self-isolation, the way the desire to look within has been reversed, redirected into probing the lives of others, while your own life is left on the table unexplored. It's really an incredible piece of work. This is crazy. Maybe, Claiborne winked. Hey, you want to see something really cool? Just tell me, what's going on? Oh, come on. I promise you it's going to be really, really cool. I swear. I don't know. Open your mind and close your eyes, and I'll give you a great big surprise. Steve closed his eyes and opened them quickly. Is this going to hurt? Hell no, Claiborne. Claiborne began singing, come on, come on, come on, come on and touch me, babe. And then he smashed Steve square in the forehead. Steve couldn't believe it. He reached out blindly and grabbed onto the man in front of him with a mind to smack him right back. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to discover that he had grabbed onto himself. That is, the man standing before him was himself, Steve Noguera. He released his grasp and looked down to see a blue untucked dress shirt. He had become Claiborne? He could even feel the linoleum cool and smooth beneath his bare feet. Steve stared back into his own eyes. Claiborne was in there. He could see him. Claiborne nodded. Hey, take it easy there, bucko. Just relax. It's like a costume. Just give yourself a minute to get into character. It's easy. Steve relaxed and a sudden flood of emotions overtook him. My father is dead. My father is dead. This is from Claiborne. My father is dead. My father is dead. Everything is dying around me. I've destroyed the company built by my father and his father before him. Steve saw an expansive corner office, blonde wood paneling, a giant ficus behind the desk, as if the office had belonged to a tree. Failure churned his stomach like broken glass. I've lost everything, everything. At the same time, Steve sensed the presence of something else, something small. I am free. I am free. He is dead, and I am free. That sensation disappeared beneath the fresh waves of loss and despair. The company's gone. All the clients are fleeing. We'll never be able to recover. But then again, the freedom, stronger this time, relief. The gradual slipping away of a tremendous weight, as if he'd been buried in the sand and was slowly wrestling his way out, pressing upward. It's all right. It's okay. Claiborne embraced him. That's enough for now, I think. Steve nodded. He didn't want to be Charles Claiborne anymore. But let me ask you something. He grabbed Steve's chin and made him look again into his own eyes. Tell me now, who are you? Huh? Who are you? Who is the I that is Steve Noguera one minute and Charles Claiborne the next? I, Claiborne repeated. By George, I think you've got it. Steve closed his eyes and leaned his forehead against the stainless steel molding around the elevator doors. The cold metal felt good, bracing, and it helped the dizziness to subside. He felt solid again, but he was grasping, as if he'd just run a great distance. He took a deep breath and counted down from 10. For Christ's sakes, wake up. No, Simon was shaking. For Christ's sakes, wake up, Noguera. You don't want Mrs. Walker to catch you napping in her feet. Huh? Steve blinked and looked around. The corridor was busy with nurses and aides, forlorn visitors. What's the matter? Can't handle a double shift anymore? Where's Claiborne? Simon shrugged. Who? The rich guy. The son of the rich guy who died. Never mind him. They're waiting for you. Steve scanned the hallway, saw a flash of blue shirt at the far end. Cover for me. What? Cover for me. Simon, I know we didn't always get along. If I've ever done anything to offend you, if I've shown you any kind of attitude, I'm sorry. I apologize. But I know I can be an asshole. I hope you can forgive me. Simon stared at him eyes wide. I know it's asking a lot, but please, could you just cover for me this one time? Yeah, sure, of course. Thank you. Steve turned and ran after Claiborne. Thank you.